So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we'll be continuing with the theme of percentages with a focus of percentage increase decrease using decimal multipliers. Now, an efficient way of increasing or decreasing an amount by a percentage is by using decimal multipliers. Now, to find the correct decimal multiplier of an increase or decrease, you should always remember that you always start at 100%. That's because the initial or the original amount is what you are starting with. Then, starting with this 100%, we then add if we're increasing or subtract if we're decreasing the percentage from 100 to leave the final percentage. Then with this final percentage, we can then convert this into a decimal, divide by 100, and finally multiply this decimal by the amount we wish to increase or decrease. Alternatively, what you can do is use this following formula, which is 1 plus the percentage, including the sign, which is the key thing to remember, divided by 100. So if we just take this as an example, so this percentage, so if we're looking at an increase by, let's say, 23%, then what that formula would look like, it's going to look like 1 plus 23 over 100, which equals 1.23. If we're looking at a decrease of, let's say, 7%, a decrease by 7%, then we'll get 1 plus, and it'll be minus 7 because we're decreasing by 100, and that equals 0.93. So these values here would be our decimal multipliers. Let me just write that down. And so these are our decimal multipliers. Now, you'll get no marks by working out this as a formula. It should be a 1 mark. You can even do it in your head, and with practice you should be able to spot what percentages are, what percentage increase decreases are. Now, as I mentioned, once you've mastered the art of calculating decimal multipliers, you can then work backwards to then look at a decimal multiplier to know whether it's increasing or decreasing. Now, one thing you will spot that when your decimal multiplier is a number that's bigger than 1, then you are going to be increasing. And if your decimal multiplier is less than 1, then you're going to be decreasing. Now, with increasing, it's quite obvious because you kind of ignore the 1. However, with 0, you've got to take it away from 1. So that's how we can then work out what the decimal multiplier is going to be. So here, if we had a decimal multiplier of 1.25, then that's going to be an increase of 25%. If we've got 1.6, that's going to be an increase of 60%, even though there's no 0, but I can add a 0. For 3, that's going to be an increase of 2%. For question 4, that's going to be an increase of 96%. 5 is going to be an increase of 5%. For 6, that's going to be an increase of 2.5%. For question 7, that's going to be an increase of 200%. Actually, 100%. And the reason for that is because when we're multiplying by 1, we're not actually changing anything. It's only when we multiply by something that's bigger than 1 will that be. And then here, this is going to be an increase of 220.5%. So just be careful when you've got multiples of the decimal multiplier is different to starting with a 1. Moving on to decrease. So again, what we need to do is take these numbers away from 1. So this is going to be a decrease of 5%. This is going to be a decrease of 20%. Again, imagine that's 0.80. This will be a decrease of 35%. This will be a decrease of 50%. This is going to be a decrease of 28%. This will be a decrease of 2.5%. Times 0.909, that will be a decrease of 91%. And multiplying by 0.615 will be a decrease of 38.5%. So now let's have a look at some example questions. So looking at question 1. So here what we're doing is we're increasing by 40%. So here we've got 340, which is the amount. Let me just color code this. and we're going to be multiplying by now 100% plus 40%. This is kind of something you want to be doing in your head, is 140%, and that as a percentage, as a decimal rather, is going to be 1.4. So then if I reach for my calculator and do 340 multiplied by 1.4, I get an answer of 476. Then for question 2, I'm increasing by 16%. So I've got 86, which is the original amount. Then here I've got 100 plus 16, which is 116%. And then that as a decimal is going to be 1.16. So then if I type that into my calculator, 86 times 1.16 gives me an answer of 99.76 kilograms. Then for question 3, I'm increasing by 34.4. So I've got 100 plus 34.4, which is 134.4. Then as a decimal, you just move the decimal point 2 places. So that then becomes 1250, which is our amount, and 1.344. So then if I do 1250 times 1.344, it gives me an answer of 1680, and that's meters. Then moving on to decrease, so number 4. So here I've got the starting amount of 4,500. Now here I've got 100 minus 35%, which is 65, and that as a decimal is 0.65. So I'm going to multiply that by 0.65, and I get 4500 times 0.65 gives me an answer of 2925. Then moving on to question 5, so let's pick a different colour. And so number 5, we've got 67 grams decreased by 3%, so it's 100 minus 3, which is 97, which as a decimal is 0.97, so that's going to be 67 times 0.97, and that gives me 64.99 grams. And then finally, with question 6, I've got $78,500, 78500. So here I've got 100 minus 25.4, and 100 minus 25.4 is 74.6, which as a decimal is 0.746. I'm going to multiply that by 0.746, and 8500 times 0.746 gives me an answer of 5856. And there we go. So now let's have a look at some worded questions. So it says that a value of a house in 2020 is 340,000 rather. In 2021, the value of increase will 22%, and in 2022, the value will decrease by 4%. Find the value of the house in 2020. So let's have a look at this then. So here our starting amount. So in 2020, or 2021 rather, and the value of the house is 340,000, and we're going to increase that by 1.12. So then if I type that into my calculator, 340,000 times 1.22, it comes up with an answer of 414,800. Then in 2022, then the value of the house, which is now 414,800, decreases by 4%. So then I'm going to do multiply that by, again, 100, take away 4 is 96, and that as a decimal is 0.96. So 414,800 multiplied by 0.96 gives me an answer of 398,208, and there is our final answer. Then moving on to question 8, a bit of a UFC theme. It says that Connor has 10% increase, says a 10% increase followed by a 10% increase is the same as a 20% increase. Habib says he is wrong. With supporting evidence, show who is correct. So let's have a look now. There's a couple of ways in which you could do this. So with method 1, what you want to do is pick an amount. Now the probably easiest amount to work with is probably 100. So let's say we've got £100. So here if we increase by 10%, then 10% of 100, well, we can just do 100 times by 1.10, and that gives us £110. So then what we're then going to do is then increase this by, then add another 10% increase. So now the new amount is 110. Multiply that by 1.10 and we get an answer of £121. So that's our final amount. Now if we then increase £100 by 20%, I get 100 times by 1.20, which is 120. So as you can see, as these two numbers are different, Connor is wrong or Habib is correct. Now another way you could work this out is by looking at the decimal multipliers. So method 2, so 10% followed by another 10% equals 1.1 multiplied by 1.1, which equals 1.21. And then a 20% increase equals 1.2. So as you can see, these two numbers here are different. And so what that means is that Connor is wrong or Habib is correct. So any of those two methods will be absolutely fine. It all depends on how much writing you want to do.